you doing, Brandon?
He has a month till his wedding.
Okay, shall we start? The pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Forget to turn on your mic.
The first order of business is to accept the minutes. Oops, I'm sorry. Yeah? No? Yes?
Thank you.
Where is my agenda? Is to accept the minutes from the July meeting. Do we have any discussion about those minutes?
Motion to accept. Do we want to do it as one motion or
Ken?
2 sets of minutes, right?
No,
We're just
one.
doing July?
Just one. We're all caught up.
Oh, what was the second attachment?
Don't make it
No,
complicated.
They were
Two sets of
accepted
minutes.
minutes.
Oh, that's right, the other ones were
Right,
already accepted.
Right,
That's
and
why I
that's,
read 2
and
sets
that's
of
what I'm
minutes.
gonna do again this
Yeah,
next
that's why I
month.
was looking at 2 sets of minutes, okay.
Before we,
That's great.
do that, I just want to, the committee updates that we have been doing, we've been doing A, B, C, D, E, F, G, a whole bunch of updates. But now that we have regular reports from the trustee committee, from the Board of Trustees committees, as well as committee updates from the town and the library. I broke that out and I corrected it. So
It's clear.
that's it, and it's
Yeah.
going to be different when I send you the approved minutes, because I corrected that, and I may correct a few other things. I'm just not sure. I need to talk to Yvette, just about the format, not
So
so
there's
much the
nothing
contents.
in the minutes actually that has to be corrected?
That's correct.
Okay,
Just
That-
formatting.
Just formatting, yeah.
okay. The content of the minutes is what we are approving
Right, so this was July.
for July's minutes.
Motion to accept
I second.
July.
Okay, all in favor? Okay. What?
Nothing.
You remembered to vote.
I remember to vote, yes. Okay, committee updates, Friends of the Library,
They meet next, is it next Monday? Yeah, next Monday.
okay.
Yeah.
Anything particular about that meeting?
No, just their next,
Book
Hey.
sale.
Book sale is the 8th and 9th?
Yep.
9th and 10th? 8th, 9th, and 10th?
8th and 9th,
8th and 9th,
pre-sale on the 7th.
7th, 7th, 8th, 9th, okay. Okay, the Development Fund is on hiatus. The next meeting will be in October. The Library Building Development and Marking Committee is on hiatus at the moment. The Town Center Committee is Karen.
Whoa, wait,
Oh, sorry.
can't go that fast.
Questions about the book
Library, building and development on hiatus. Yes, Town Center Committee. Let me see, here it is. On July 20th, Town Center Committee met. The main issue is, and I've mentioned this before, that, that we had a grant to finish the Sauhegan Trail project, and the price has gone up to the point where it can no longer be completed with the funds that were granted for the trail project. We also had the Woodbury Street sidewalk grant, and the town council voted to use that grant money to combine and finish the Sauhegan Trail. So that's That's what's going to happen. And the state accepted it. So the Woodbury Street sidewalk, we're going to reapply for grant money for that. Also, they are now talking about putting sidewalks in. It would be less expensive to put sidewalks in, from the library to the police station. So what would happen is,
I mean, on this side, on that side of the road.
right, so what would happen is that students would have to cross from the upper elementary or the high school, cross over to near the police station. But then there would be a sidewalk going all the way down to the library. And that is something that's going to, I believe, happen sooner rather than later,
So
so.
along the front of the cemetery and past the
Exactly.
church?
That's right,
Okay.
Yeah, okay,
that's right.
it's a good idea.
So that, the town center committee was working with that. Other than that, it was town items, you know, having brochures at the, July 4th celebration and farmers, being at the farmer's market and so on and so forth, so.
Okay, very good,
And they're meeting again September 7th.
very good, thank you. Turkey Shoot is going to have to reawaken very soon, given our event is in November, so that will be reconvening very soon. We go to the trustee committees, the personnel committee. First item is our alternate trustee appointment procedure, which Rick and I are collaborating on at the moment, and we will table that till next month. And a script for trustees to use to redirect the public for issues that arise. We're going to table that until next month. The building and maintenance committee,
I'm sorry, would you repeat, what was the second one? Alternate trustees, table, what's the second thing? The script,
They're both gonna
okay,
be tabled.
okay. Okay,
the building and maintenance committee,
Can I just, I'm sorry,
Yes.
clarify?
yes,
The personnel committee is not trustee work about what trustees, how trustees are going to address the public or do things. It's a committee to meet with me to talk about staff, personnel.
yes, I understand. It ended up that she had volunteered for it, and I think that that's why it came under that. So it's probably inappropriate that it's under
Yeah,
that title.
which is what Karen was talking about
Yeah.
changing the labels.
Yeah.
So that's that
Yeah,
part.
you're right. It just sort of fell to her, and she was on that, 'cause I think that's how that happened. So that was my miss.
I still don't understand.
I'll explain
Yeah,
after.
I'm not clear
I'll
on-
explain after.
I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
but I don't understand what she's saying.
Okay, I'll explain after, so we
Okay.
don't spend a lot of time on it right now,
Okay.
okay? The Building and Maintenance Committee, I believe is going to be meeting again, or you have met,
You have met.
and we had some questions, and so that's going to be tabled right now, anything going on there.
We needed a discussion with you.
I'm sorry?
We needed a discussion. Janice wanted some clarification from you.
Yes, and we haven't had an
haven't been able to
opportunity
connect.
to connect on anything, so this month of August was very difficult to catch up with people. And the investment committee, there's nothing for them to report on this month, so until after the
Right.
space committee, and the space study results come in, then we'll have something to talk about. So do we have any new business? I already talked about the trustee appointee. We do need to schedule a public hearing. We've received a very generous donation from DCU for $5,000,
Wow.
which requires that we have a public hearing to accept that donation within about a week or so. So, perhaps after this meeting, we can.
Is there a time, I didn't think there was a timeline for.
I thought it had to be within a week. No?
Okay.
Okay, what does it say?
This is from the RSA 202A 4C3A. For unanticipated monies in the amount of $5,000 or more, I'll give this to you so you can type it. The public library trustee shall hold a prior public hearing on the action to be taken. Notice of the time, place, and subject of such hearing shall be published in a newspaper of general circulation in the relevant municipality at least 7 days before the hearing is held. So it's not that we receive the check
it's
and you
7
need,
days before the hearing.
so we need to plan to put it in the paper, and that's gonna take a week or change. And then you're gonna have the hearing.
So we could do it as part of our next regular meeting then.
You can. Yes.
So let's do that.
Well, I assume the library will be
Yep.
putting the ad in the paper, and then after that, we can meet and accept the money. But we have to notify the public first.
But does the public also need to be notified of the date?
Yeah, it has to
Okay.
be in the paper.
Okay.
They need the date of the public meeting. That's the whole,
Right, and I thought someone said at this next meeting.
18.
Okay.
And then
That's
Okay.
enough time for the journal to get it all in. Okay. I don't know, sometimes they're weird.
Well, if it's a public notice, they have
Oh,
to,
that's
notice of a public hearing. There's,
Mm-hmm.
it's not like an article or an editorial that someone wrote where it's like, we don't have space for this. We love the journal. I just want to say we love the whole cabinet press. We love them. We love them.
Okey-doke.
they have been good about publishing library activities.
Yes.
Yes.
The next thing on the list is we need to schedule a right-to-know training.
Yes, I think it's just a good reminder for the board, this is something that I've been to this training, I know Joanne has been to this training, and I've asked the town manager if the town attorney is able to present it again. It was several years ago that he presented it.
Or who's the
for-
audience?
Elected officials, anyone in government who's using government email. Because if you look at the right to know law, or shorthand, if you look at the bottom of my email, below my signature, it lists out these emails, the communication in my emails are subject to public disclosure. The communication in your emails about library business is also subject to public disclosure, which is why when you go to a training and why we create work emails for you, merrimack.gov emails for you, that it's really better, it's in your best interest, it's in our best interest for the library, it's in the board's best interest to use those emails for communication and not personal emails, because then your personal emails are subject to public disclosure. So I'm looking at you.
I know, because I don't know, I can't always
However,
access the
you
server.
do have a reference librarian here who can make an appointment with you to help you learn about accessing your government email, or you have 4 other board members who can also assist you. I'm just encouraging you. But it's a good reminder, and also a good reminder that I know you have lots of subcommittees and lots of conversations, and all of those conversations, the topic of the conversations also need to be brought into the public forum here at your meetings. So you would say, and you say this, but it's always, you have to remember to say it, where I met with Janet, the investment committee met, we discussed XYZ, and it's now, but maybe signal Karen, for public disclosure, I just wanted to note in the minutes that we met on this date, we talked about this. But it's good training, good to have, it's been a while.
So you're
I don't
asking,
know that anyone,
you're asking the town manager to schedule one?
to see if, to
in
ask
general.
if the town attorney has one planned for the elected officials, because it was probably a good 5 years, 6 years since I went.
Okay.
And I think the ones that they might offer at the NHLTA conference, they're a session long, so it's very short and probably cursory. I mean, you're nodding, so you went to one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is
You went to
cursory
it.
when
Yeah,
it
it is
comes
cursory.
to like what you're explaining.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, Joanne was kind enough to find a PowerPoint that was used in a previous one, but I don't know if it's so helpful to just have the PowerPoint and walk through it without really the opportunity to have a question and answer with someone who can really interpret this.
Was this
for
a full day or a half a day?
This was not a full day. It
No?
was longer than a session,
Mhm.
longer than a conference
Longer
session
than-
for sure, but I'll find out. I'll find out.
Great, it's a good idea, thank you.
Okay.
I'm thinking now Brendan is sitting here quite patiently. Perhaps we should move to his, you are here, I assume, for your request on the databases.
Yep, there it is.
So why don't we move to that so that you do not have to listen to us?
Is your mic on?
No, you have to push, is it lit? Now it's lit.
No. No.
Brendan is our reference librarian. He is here to talk about 3 databases that he has requested, and the board asked for a little bit more information on these databases. And each database had a different cost attached to it.
Yes.
So I'll turn the floor over to you, Brendan, to explain, and if the board has any questions, please forward them to him. The 3
Oh, I was
databases
missing
were
something.
A to Z World Food, EBSCO Legal Information Center, and Weiss Financial. So I'll turn it over to you.
The first one that I know I got, I believe I was forwarded an email by a vet regarding that had some questions on it, and a lot of it focused on the Weiss Financial one. The Weiss Financial database is something I researched at my previous job when I was looking to replace our Value Line database that we were subscribing to, which cost a significant amount of money and was getting underused. And I'll say, with my own experience, I used the database myself to start learning how to invest, and it was not very user friendly for an everyday investor like me.
You're not talking about the Weiss one, you're talking about the previous one.
That would be Weiss Financial.
That would be Weiss.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I'll get to the point on Weiss Financial. This
Okay.
is how I got to it.
Okay.
But the database I was subscribed to at my previous position just wasn't in the end user friendly. So I did my own research, and I found Weiss Financial was the most user friendly of any of the other sites I looked at. We didn't end up making the switch at the time because we did not have the funding, but I always kept it in the back of my head. So when I came here and saw there was no financial database that we were currently subscribed to, I thought I would look at this and see if it would be possible to bring it into the fold, because it is information we are lacking both in both online, and we are very limited with the print reference source that we have currently, which is the print version of Value Line. And even years down the road after I've started investing, it's still very technical for me. So
The Value Line.
yes, it does get use. We do have a lot of people, older people, who come in to look at it. But say a person of my age or younger might have a lot of trouble. I just want to see a stock price. I want to see some charts. It's not the most. It's very wordy, but the website, this Weiss Financial, is very user friendly in my opinion.
Simpler.
Long story short, I'll say it is simpler.
Mhm.
There was concern that if you could trade through it, and I'll say there is none. It is not like E-Trade where you can buy and sell stocks. It is just the stock information.
It's just educational.
Yes. The only fancy thing I will say about it is you can add information tabs to it. So right now, this request is just for the stocks portion of the website, but you can add items like mutual funds, health
Would-
insurance.
Would that be above the cost of, the yearly cost is $2,595?
That I forgot. I apologize for not having the money listing here as
We
well.
have it on
It's on the
your,
bottom of this.
Yes, would I be able to get a copy?
your request.
Okay.
So it only includes stocks on this database?
Yes, does eventually go. It does eventually go you do get a volume discount for getting more items added to it.
What makes this database worth $2,600?
It is I apologize for not knowing it off the top of my head, but I do know that the information they get is from an authoritative source that I've used on my own separately from their own database. So I trust it very well. I would say it's something that is, I think, the cost is a little high, so I do want to just see how well a database like this would work here. So this would be only for that 1 year to get the idea, will this work or not?
So will we be able to track how many people are using it?
Yeah.
That was another question we had, was tracking databases. and,
Yeah. If it's anything like Value Line or any of our other databases, we were able to track numbers through their admin page, so I would be able to get an idea. The I will say the one big benefit of this versus a site like Value Line worked like Ancestry.com does for us, where you have to be either in the library, you have to be in the library's Wi-Fi network or on one of our computers in order to access the site. So you couldn't remotely go from home. This would include something like remote access, where it'd be more convenient for me to be at home to look up stock stuff than to have to be forced to come into the library.
It's like you read my mind. I was about to ask that same question regarding all three of these databases. So are they?
Yep, all of them are remote accessible.
Yeah.
At the present time, are most people using the databases remotely or in the library? Do you know offhand?
Offhand, no. The only one I know that is limited by the library is Ancestry. Am I correct? Okay. And that's still, the numbers are a little down from their highs from a few years ago, but they do get a lot of usage in-house, especially when we have our Ancestry genealogy classes. My assistant does. The numbers go up after that, so it does hamper it a bit, but again, opening it up I think would expand numbers. So this, especially Weiss, would be a good option for something like finances, where you need more up to the minute information versus something like the Value Line print edition we have, where it, just because of the transit time of mailings and having to do the research, it's always going to be delayed, versus if you go to someplace online where you'll have your stock chart up to the minute that day versus something from maybe a few weeks ago.
So Weiss keeps an updated stock market exchange rates.
Yeah, it's going to be, if it's like any typical website, it's always going to be delayed by like 15 minutes. So that'll be the only time delay thing you would have to worry about. Unless it is research-based, your charts and stuff would be updated, but your research is probably still going to be slightly delayed, because you're not just going to do a report on a stock, say like ExxonMobil, every single day of the week. You might do one every few weeks or a month, but you'll get all your important data to know how to trade right away.
So does it also give you information about the companies or just about the stock?
It would be, to be honest, I cannot remember offhand. But again, I know my experience with Value Line, those stocks do what you're saying, though. So I would have to look at it again.
Because when you purchase a stock, you want to know something about the company, not just the stock information.
But
I would think.
Yeah, most sites still do that, so I know that's not 100% guarantee, but usually you should get the information you're looking for.
Okay.
Now, none of these databases are replacing existing ones. They're all brand new services for the library.
Weiss and the EBSCO legal one would be 100% new material.
Right.
A to Z is a bit weird in the fact that it's weird what they're doing. It is actually part of Global Road Warrior, which is our world fact book database. So if you wanted to look up the profile of like a country, I'm just rambling off, like Albania, you can click and look up the country and find within it all the food recipe stuff. My theory is that part has become so popular that they're spinning it off into its own separate database that they can sell.
You mean the food part?
Yes. So I was told by the rep when I was researching this that they are actually going to pull the recipe stuff from that website once this really gets going.
So the price will probably go up at the same time.
Well, right now it would be for A to Z food. It would be locked in. I'll say it's for a database as popular as I think it is. That is very cheap. I know, at least from my experience, again going back to my last job, I used that database for one of my most successful programs. We got very high attendance for it, and the database itself saw usage go way up after the program. So it's something that really does lend itself well to library activities, and especially it is, again, accessible from home, so you can try these recipes. You can put these recipes on your iPad and try them out on your own, which was very fun to do, although I damaged quite a few of my cooking implements. I tried making a Somalian tea off it, and I ruined both mine and my fiance's water pitchers. Because the cardamom blew out the heating elements.
That's not a good selling point for the database.
No, that's just Brendan.
That's just my cooking.
He was brave, and he decided.
Although it was
to-
quite
Database
good.
is fine.
It was quite good.
The other two
What's the
databases,
teapot?
would you see the library saying, "Hey, we have this new database. Come in. We'll teach you how to use it," like
We
a
always-
one-time kind of.
Well,
and
we always
then-
do that.
Okay.
Now, the food, you said there were other food databases?
No, they're currently right now. Sorry if I'm going to be repeating. Currently, you can access the same material through Global Road Warrior, which is, but that is going to be removed once this database gets up and running. So there's going to be
Other than that, there weren't other food databases?
no. I trusted this information again because we already have it. Plus, this is the same database I used again for my program, so I know the information is really good, and it was very accessible for somebody who obviously can't cook to attempt to cook.
So it's a little bit of a duplication at the moment.
At the moment, yes. I can double check when, if you would like me to, I can check when it's supposed to be replaced before we make a decision on that one, if that's something you would like me to do.
Can you tell us a little bit about the EBSCO Legal Information Center?
Yeah, a little bit. I unfortunately could not get a trial on it, so I couldn't get my really hands-on. But it would consolidate legal resources all into one space instead of having to jump around to various internet sites.
Is this specific to New Hampshire legal forms? It says legal forms. Is that specific to New Hampshire, or can you find them on there somehow?
You can find them on there.
Okay.
What it would do is, an issue I found working reference is when someone wants to get like a legal form. So if you've heard of it, LegalZoom is a site that a lot of people commonly know, and they would be looking for forms that would be available on that site. But you have to subscribe, you have to do a lot of signing up. Another problem I found is people will just type in New Hampshire legal documents into Google, click the first thing that's on there, and there's either a paywall or the information doesn't look current. this would solve that problem and put it all in one place.
So they wouldn't have to sign into a separate company as a user, they wouldn't have to pay for it.
No.
The resources there, if they wanted to print off a document, they wouldn't have to pay for that document.
And I'll say I used this also, again, in my previous position, and it was one of our most used databases, simply for just having the one-stop shop for the legal documents instead of having to guess at which site was the proper location of the forms.
Go on there and like print out like a prenup or something if you
Yes.
What are you implying, Rick?
Just
Not
Is
cool.
it wrong to say that our most used form on there was it was divorce forms?
Okay, moving on.
50%?
What is your problem?
That vibe.
Janet, I'm gonna switch seats with you next time. Then I can.
I've got one question left before we move on. Now, you mentioned like the financial one you want to try is like a 1-year trial. Are we committed to the full year? But so if after like 2 months we find out nobody's using it, are we committed to the full year, or can we pull out after like 6 months? If
we would be fully committed for the year.
Okay.
So what I will preface this again, going back to what A to Z Food was.
Excuse me.
What I talked about A to Z Food, the database was getting underused at the point I had my program, and as soon as we did the program, the attendance issues would have been solved. If we did what you're suggesting, we would have kind of cut it off before it even had a chance to begin. We also did the same thing with our language database there, where we promoted it alongside the food, and it went from almost being completely cut, and this was actually going to be its last hurrah, and numbers shot up instantly after that, and the last time I remember seeing them were still sustained at that very high number.
Nice. Well, a lot of it's advertising that
It's
there.
advertising and just getting the right
People know it's there.
hook. So I know that kind of the auto database, I haven't checked the numbers, but I know I did a little web slide on the auto database, and we got calls about it the day after it went up. So
I recommend people use that a lot.
Which one?
The auto database.
Automate
Automate.
even has repair stuff for DeLoreans when I get it.
It's very good.
A DeLorean.
Repaired a lot of cars using that database.
Page about the flux capacitor.
Capacitor joke. I already made the joke on that about that on the flyers at the library. I just think these would really just fill a gap we don't have. Again, I don't know long-term wise how successful, whether they'll be successful or not, which is why I'm asking for just the 1 year to try to put a good faith effort towards pushing it, and if it is successful, I would likely be coming back and asking for maybe a longer commitment.
So I'm just gonna interrupt you, or
Go ahead.
because of the timeline for when we submit the budget. So we submit, we start talking about the budget in the fall, October, November. It has to go to, Paul McCallie, so that it can go through the rest of the process with the town council and the town manager. So we would submit for 1920 for next year's budget. We're gonna start working on that in the fall. So you wouldn't have any data for the fall. So you may be asking them for a 2-year commitment where you get a year's worth of data, and then when we go to plan the 2021 budget, that's when it would be. And we've done this in the past. We've done this with ebooks and Hoopla, and we've done this, the staff have approached the board saying, we want to try this service out, but we don't know anything to know if we want to commit it to the municipal budget. But this is a great way to try something out, and then if it doesn't work, then we haven't overextended ourselves financially. So just kind of reminding you of the timeline that you wouldn't
Didn't
have
think
the
about that,
information for
so.
next year's budget, but you could gather it for the next year's.
So like as I said, as like you did what we did with Hoopla.
Right.
And that gave us a full year to actually.
So to summarize a little bit, what I'm hearing from you is that the A to Z World Food, really there's no other separate food database. It's embedded in another database. And so it's not necessarily clear to people that you can get, where to get food recipes, international food recipes anyway.
That is the
Hearing
current. That is the
correctly.
current situation. What?
And this would break that out.
Yes.
That would break it out to a separate database. Well, just a nice advantage to be able to do that. And then I'm hearing with the EBSCO that this is a good one-stop shopping, that to access forms, people will not have to go to a separate website and have to like sign in and make an account, and or they won't have to pay for the forms through this database.
Yep.
Am I
They
hearing
would
that?
be. Yep. They would be fairly basic form. They would be legal, but they would be basic. It wouldn't be anything that you might have to go say to a town or city hall to go pay for. But they would hold up.
Right.
So.
And the WEIS, what I'm hearing about that one is the advantages is that it provides, the database is kept updated, so that every month or week or something, you can go in, you have updated information populating
Yeah.
the databases in that website.
Yeah.
And that it can be used remotely at home, not just at the library, like the current one is only accessible through the library.
Like it. Well, right now we do not have a current financial database.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was confusing it with,
The
you know,
Ans-
yeah.
yeah.
you have to use in the library.
Ancestry's the
Be
example.
remote, it would be remote. And then it has, the only type of information it has on it right now is about stocks, and any other types of databases would have to be purchased separately.
That is correct.
Mutual funds are a big type of investment for many people. How much would adding on an app for that add to the cost?
I don't have that price on me. But I
Okay.
could look into.
I was just curious, because to me that would be like a natural type of app to add onto it at minimum, since the two kind of go together, I think. So there's some nice advantages to that one. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I would correct myself to be in line with what Yvette said, and it would. I do think you said 2 year
Probably.
would be it.
I mean, you could ask, I would ask for 1 year, get your data, come back here in a year.
Okay.
So it's essentially what you're
Continue.
asking
Yeah.
for right now,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is 1 year.
1 year.
Okay.
Because if it doesn't work out, we're not gonna,
No,
no matter whether the money's been approved or not, if
Right.
it's not working out and we can get out after a year, then we get out after a year.
I have a question about the tracking.
Yeah.
Can you track individual users as well as, or individual sign-ons as well as like individual searches? Are they
I
distinguishable?
think with EBSCO you can. Weiss, I don't know 100% how their admin system works. And A to Z, if it's anything like Global Road Warrior, I can't remember all the separate categories, but I believe one of those, the option you're looking for, is in there. With that on the end of the year database stat listing, I provide a vet that would include, I think, the total search. That I base that on total searches, just so I'm not filling it up with a lot of other stats.
But what you're asking for is like if it's one person searching 10 times versus 10 people
Yes,
searching 10
that
Like,
you
that's
can.
what I wanted.
That specific one, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
I was gonna say.
Well, maybe that, for that type of database, it'd be an interesting statistic to try to keep on that one.
I do know that that was one problem with Value Line, is we did get decent numbers for it, but if it was anything, I know I contributed a little bit to it. if I did like 100 individual searches, it would count as 100 searches, not just one because I was active on there.
Yeah. So, anybody else have any questions for Brendan? No? Okay. Would the board like to vote on this tonight or think it over? Any thoughts?
Question I have, do we want to do them all as one or vote on each one individually?
That's a good question.
'Cause I think we have enough, and he's here, so we could ask questions if we feel we don't have enough information.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are there any more
Yeah,
questions anybody wants to ask? Any other information?
It's that camera.
Do you want to sit on it for a while before we vote on it? Do you want to
What do you guys think?
vote on all of them as a package or individually? I would think individually, but,
I think individually, and I'm free to open. I'm willing to vote tonight.
okay.
Yeah, I am too.
Everybody want to vote tonight? Okay. So then, all in favor of
We
purchasing?
need a motion
Oh,
first.
I'm motioning.
Okay.
Right,
Did she
I was
motion?
asking for a vote and I haven't motioned. Sorry. The motion is to, motion to purchase the A to Z World Food database for a period of 1 year at a cost of $300.
Karen?
Yes, that is the one that I'm thinking we might set aside, simply because if they're not planning on pulling out from that Road Warrior, or whatever it is, we'll be paying.
Kind of double, yeah.
Yeah, it won't, we'll be paying for something that is pretty much public information until they separate from that
From the
public
other
site.
database.
But what do we pay for the Road Warrior? Do you know offhand?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Do we pay for the Road Warrior?
Yes, we do.
Oh.
It does include a lot more than simply the recipes are kind of they're popular, but they're one of the smaller sections on there. Some of the country profiles don't have any recipes because they don't have.
This A to Z database does? Is this database exactly the same, or is it?
It would be
larger?
exactly the same. So they'd essentially copy the info that would say there was recipes for the United States. They would just transfer all the ones that are in the original database, and you'll see them exactly the same. And
Oh, so they haven't expanded on the new database?
that I don't know, because I have not I've not had the trial for A to Z World Food in a while, and I have not looked at Global Road Warrior in a while as well.
So that's the one
Yeah.
that I was thinking
Yeah.
we should maybe table discussion on that, and then
I can
you
look
can just
into it.
let us know
Find out when the cutover is.
when and then we can vote on it, but
Thank you, Karen, yeah.
Because there's no specific, you have to sign up on this day. You
No,
can sign up at any time.
not
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll gather more information on that,
Table
so I
that one, I
withdraw
guess.
my motion.
He's been very my contact's been very responsive, so I can theoretically get you an answer probably in the next couple days if that's something you want.
it's fine. Just So yeah, but you never so
Well, I didn't sorta,
right.
kinda sorta did.
So
Do we, so we're tabling A to Z until we have more information.
right.
Okay,
I don't say a word.
okay. Do we have any discussion on EBSCO? Do I hear a motion on EBSCO?
I make a motion at $14.95 to buy EBSCO Legal Information Center.
Database,
It's called database.
for
I did, for $14.95.
a period of 1 year.
Buy for a period.
I second the motion. Any other discussion? All in favor? Okay, so we'll do the EBSCO. Any other discussion on Weiss Financial?
I wondered if we wanted to wait to find out how much more to add the mutual funds.
Okay,
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
is that a good idea?
Like you sounded that would be kind of go hand in hand
I
with
think
that.
so, for
And
most
Well,
people.
if we're gonna table it for that, which makes perfect sense, is there any way to get like, like a pamphlet or printout or something of like the specific details of what they offer, or like maybe just a screenshot sample of something, so we can kind of see
Talking about the Weiss?
The Weiss.
the financial one, yeah. Because that one, I'm wondering, what versus if you just go to like Yahoo Finance or something, or Google Finance, or whatever the site is, what are we getting? Because this one's the most expensive of all of them. What are we getting above and beyond what's just public?
It is more, I will say, it is more authoritative than what you can get on Yahoo. My experience with using E-Trade, where you got a lot of this, the professional research when you subscribe to the site, was really above and beyond what you could get on Yahoo. It was much more, to me, it was much more informational and much more professionally done than seemingly a Yahoo financial blogger,
Mhm.
which has its place,
Sounds like
but
it's more credible,
Yeah.
is what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
So would we like to wait until we have a printout of that, which you can put in our drawer if you
Well,
want? Is that what you're asking?
What she's suggesting is waiting until we get what it would cost additionally if we wanted the mutual funds.
Might also be nice if they have a list of other apps as to what those are and what those costs are
oh,
as well.
I have that. I actually do have that specific email. I can dig around. I can dig that up and see.
Okay.
So
So maybe you could just stick a copy for each of us in the box, in the drawer, and then we'll have it for next meeting. Does that work? Does that work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to know about Weiss? No?
So we're asking for whatever add-ons as well as how much the mutual fund is.
Yeah, because there may be other ones on there that, we don't know what's available.
Right. And obviously, we'd need the costs of the other ones if.
Yeah.
Well, I was also curious, and I know this falls under the same thing, but I would think the Medigap information would be something that people would welcome
That'd be on
accessing
would
it.
that be on Weiss Financial?
Yeah.
maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
one of their biggest ones that they've pushed with me both here and in Minot, was the Medigap information. Now, I thankfully don't have to think about that right now, but I did read through the sample they gave me, and it was very simple and informational, and I actually could understand what it was asking. So it's kind of like a stock or mutual fund ranking system.
You mean for the different insurance companies?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for depending on what sort of Medigap coverage you were
So it
looking
gives you the
for.
cost for each of the insurance companies and what they're charging for their policy?
Yeah.
Nice. Currently, now that would have to be kept current, because they change those costs every
Yeah.
year. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Know that.
So, in summary, we have voted to purchase the EBSCO legal, and we've tabled the other two choices for the A to Z to find out when it's going to break off from its original site and start being independent. And the Weiss, we're waiting for more information and what the add-ons would cost. So we've tabled those two.
Yes.
Yes. And this would come out of fines, right?
Materials.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for us?
Nope, that is all. Thank you very much for
Thank
approving
you.
the first one.
I'm glad that you're looking to fill in some gaps here.
They're just ones I know I personally liked, and from my experience here, would be something that would greatly help me do my job.
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you.
Can you turn your mic on?
Thank you, Brendan.
You too.
Do you have something to say?
I said, okay. Say, okay.
The treasurer's report is the next item on our agenda. Do you have a size 2 print on here?
Which one are we looking at here?
I think it's size 2. I can barely see it with my glasses.
What are we looking at first?
We're just getting the balance sheet. I think it's actually pretty big.
Oh, this one.
Oh.
For our balances, for July, our beginning balance for fines started at $18,254.29. You will notice that there are two different transfers. So I transferred money to bring our balance to $10,000. Then I realized, waking up in the middle of the night, that I didn't account for the checks that went in like June 29th. So I had to put money back in to account for the money that, it's like the encumbered stuff that was from the previous, which
yeah.
is what the transferred money back in.
Down, here, down, okay.
So like in fines, the 828.27 was to cover the leftover checks from the previous year, the uncanceled checks. And then, so our ending balance for fines for July was $10,849.11. Questions? And then for special, our beginning balance for July was $14,954.28. And the same situation happened because like I said, I'm like, I didn't account for those. So I had to transfer money back in. This was done on the 7th. And then the ending balance for July is $8,047.03. Questions about those? The rest on the sheet says like what our savings is for fines, savings for special, the Watson account. They're all on that. And then our the profits and loss statements are just essentially where money went for the month, whether it was the copier, e-commerce, income generating equipment, and our expenses in terms of fines, and then under special, again, donations coming in, various expenses. Trust fund money was spent, books, children's room.
Very nice.
Issues? Okay.
I have a motion to accept our treasurer's report. No problems with it? Okay, we're done. Operating budget.
These numbers are getting smaller and smaller.
I know, one problem. other page. What, you gonna talk about that?
Yeah, it's the beginning of the year. It's the beginning of the year. There's money.
How much?
I did pass out another spreadsheet like this. It says town invoices processed through July 1st through the 31st. These are a list of individual invoices that Janet asked under particular categories with the detail. So this is, Janet, this is a sample. I didn't put this together. Joanne put this together because she's processing invoices for the town. So as she was moving through the pile of invoices that we receive in the mail, she just created this. So is this
This is great.
what you like?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
This is essentially breaking down the general ledger. So if you looked at like electricity, where on the general ledger for electricity, year to date, like there's $1,539.91. Well, and that was through the month of July. This will show you, thank you, Joanne, thank you, Yvette, where it was spent and where it was spent on. So it's not just, okay, it's more specific, okay, electricity, we know electricity, but the maintenance and grounds, it's trash or it's inspections, replace the toilet. It's not just a number. This has now had a purpose to it. This is exactly what I wanted. Thank you.
Yep, looks good. All the account numbers, you can find it.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is great. Absolutely.
So the Science Center, we purchased those
That's a museum pass.
passes, yeah.
Oh, no, that's the program. Sorry.
The
We
program.
do have a pass, but this is the program. Yep.
Oh, that one with the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Well done. That was much clearer. Thank you. Any questions about any of this?
That's good.
No, this is great.
Very nice.
Good toilet.
Where's the agenda now? Got lost in all the,
That's the director's report.
it's gotten lost in all the other papers. Okay, the director's report is next.
Okay.
We turn the floor over to the director.
I don't know what you want. Do you have questions about any of this? 2, 3.
I think it's great that so many of your staff are going to the
Yeah,
conference. That's
so
wonderful.
so that's a nice highlight.
About that.
All of the department heads, except for Joanne and I,
Who's
will be
running the
going
library?
to the New England Library Association conference. This is the NELA conference. It's a regional conference in New England. It's going to be in Warwick, Rhode Island this October. They're all presenting on different topics, and Joanne and I will be minding the store. No, they've all managed to schedule coverage in their own departments. Everything will run smoothly, and it's very exciting that they get to have some additional professional development and networking opportunities. There'll be workshops that they can also attend and learn about some exciting things. So,
Great. Wonderful.
Can you real briefly just talk more about the project to reorganize the DVDs?
that was a request from the Teen Advisory Group last year, where I was actually, we were between youth services department heads. We were interviewing department heads. And so I was running the Teen Advisory Group, and I asked them for a list of ideas of how we could improve the library. And this was one of them. You know, they said, I can't find anything in the DVD collection. You organize it alphabetically by title, and I can't find anything. And I thought that was a brilliant suggestion. You know, if you go to Redbox or back in the day in the Blockbuster video stores, you know, anytime we approach something like that, it's shelved by genre. So I feel like watching a comedy. I feel like watching a horror movie. I feel like watching a documentary. And then we can just go to that section and just, you know, just select from there. So that was something that they suggested, and it took many, many months. There are lots of steps because you can't just relabel it. When you relabel something, it has to be changed in the catalog, you know, and then it was a matter of measuring and remeasuring. Do we have enough space? And then physically doing it. So they're going to be talking about that because it was between a couple of departments in the library working on it.
Can't wait to see when it's all done.
It's done.
Oh, is it?
You have to come back to the library.
I probably have seen it and just didn't even notice any difference.
Did the
Like
teens?
the chalkboard, I saw it the last time. I focused directly on the chalkboard, and I'm like, you know, I walked by that thing, and I looked, and it just didn't.
Yeah,
dawn
that's
on
been
me
up
that
for a
was-
month.
I know. And last time when you mentioned it, I was like, I don't remember seeing
It sounds crazy, but
And
I
it-
love to
so
look
I
at it.
specifically went in to see it, and I looked, and I was like, oh, I did see that, and I walked right by it and didn't notice it.
Did you get
I'm a guy.
feedback
I
from
just
any of the teens about actually getting it done?
Well, it's getting used. I mean, we'll see how the stats shake out in terms of, you know, I mean, our DVD collection is being used, so
Yeah.
I'm not really
Yes, it is.
concerned about it, but
I've seen, that's where I see people go.
oh yeah.
Even when they take up,
Yeah.
you know, people that get books, they go over the DVD.
Oh yeah.
Maybe even first. It's interesting to
Mhm.
see.
not to get off on a tangent, but one of the things that I found that was kind of neat, with the DVDs in the library in Linfield where I'm working now, they have these binge boxes where they're basically, it looks like a lunchbox, and they have 5 movies or DVDs that are all related, where you check them out as a
As a
box, as a for like a weekend binge, movie binge. I thought that was kind of neat, and they said they were telling. I was talking to the reference librarian there, and she said the kids' boxes, you know, during storms and bad weather, she goes, you can't keep them on the shelves
Mhm.
because the parents just here's a whole box of
Yeah.
DVDs, have fun. You know?
And I see the book drop has arrived.
Book drop has arrived.
Yes, that I noticed.
Beautiful, sitting there in
Sitting there.
silvery splendor.
Yeah, that I noticed.
Have you used it?
That I noticed. No, I
Oh,
didn't
can we
use it,
use
but I
it?
noticed it.
I
Yeah,
felt
it's
But I
okay.
have a stack of books to put in it.
No, it's open.
I
It's
didn't even
open.
notice it from the
Couldn't remember
highway.
if
I
it was
wasn't even
open.
in the parking lot.
Right.
I was like, look.
Yeah, we had Public Works came out actually that morning. It was was it Thursday? But they came out and they cleared out. There was a lot of overgrowth and you know, of shrubs and a lot of that kind of stuff, and cleared that out and reseeded it, and then came back that afternoon. And the book drop had arrived that morning, coincidentally, and so they just came back and installed it. It was great.
Wonderful.
Are we gonna have a grand, like, opening of the, the Dropbox?
It's just
Cut a
open.
ribbon?
No, it's open.
We've got
It's just
new
a
ribbon
monitors and movable arms.
Yeah, this is actually some of the stuff that you're seeing. This was on the year-end expenditure list that you approved at the end of the fiscal year.
Where are the arms? The arm is like this, and then so you can just swing it around?
Yeah.
Is that what the purpose is?
Mhm.
Okay.
What
So
is
you're
this?
going to be testing, on the first item under adult services.
Oh.
So that you're going to be testing that out for a period of time.
Oh, yeah, I see.
Sounds like you're having very good participation in the summer reading,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's
Yep.
going well. And you've got some very exciting programs coming up in August, September, very diverse.
Yep.
Very nice. And under administration.
Yep.
Report from Primex following the children's room flood.
Right, and I included that letter in your packets.
Very interesting.
Said Paul and I met with Bill from Turnstone.
Yep.
What's Turnstone?
Turnstone is the architectural firm that's building the highway garage.
Oh, okay. what kind of a proposal are you waiting for?
A solution
To
to
your
the,
drainage
to the
problem?
windows.
Okay.
Well, it's the building, so.
Well, he did these, this is how you're gonna solve these, and
Well, the letter that I included in your packet is from Primex, which is the insurance for the building that the town holds. And what's concerning to me is that our rates are going to go up. So that's why Paul called a meeting with someone from Turnstone so that we could get some proposals about what to do to create a solution for the windows and not have any more flooding.
Good. Okay.
So that just would be ongoing as we move along.
I don't understand what you mean by ongoing.
Well, like, we're looking at this, but we're not doing anything about it
We
yet
have to address each point in this letter.
today.
Not today.
Okay.
We have to address each point in this letter.
And then it says investigate citizen bank credit card.
We haven't followed up on that, so I left it on my report. That was something.
Do you know when you're going to be able to go to the training?
What training are you talking about?
Passport.
That's online training.
Oh, it's online.
I have to
Oh,
find 10 hours in my week to do
okay.
it.
I thought you also had a class.
No.
Okay, very good.
The library is going to be closed on the 30th for the National Alliance on Mental Illness first aid training for the staff.
And the town audit of library accounts was completed. Any issues with that?
That was completed, and I did receive the questionnaire from Paul, which is from the auditor, and this has to be completed. No, I moved everything. It has to be completed and returned to him. So usually the chair signs this. Just send it over.
Does he ask the same questions every year?
Do you want to read it out loud? You can answer the questions.
Sorry. This is from Plodzik and Sanderson, the,
Yeah, we get that survey every
you
year.
Yeah.
have the, yeah, okay. The professional association that does the town audit? Okay. The first question is, do you have knowledge of any fraud or suspicions of fraud affecting your entity?
No.
Are you aware of any allegations of fraud or suspected fraud affecting your entity? I expect to see a ghost.
None, yeah.
This is what it conjures up for me. How often do trustees meet and are formal minutes of the meetings taken and approved? Do trustees perform a periodic review of financial information? Briefly describe how the board stays informed of the latest changes in the laws and regulations pertaining to its duties and responsibilities. Please briefly describe below the process of the trustees use in approving expenditures prior to the library treasurer dispersing funds. So those are the questions asked.
There's just 2 copies.
I'm sorry?
I just gave you 2 copies.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I'll pass them up if anybody wants to look at them, just send them back to me.
Same as last year, but
Oh, so, okay,
I'm good.
okay. Thank you. Okay,
Okay. I need you to fill that out.
I can't do it right now.
Okay, when are you going to fill
I
it
have to
out?
think.
I need you to, so
I will.
how do you say it? This is not a motion, but it's a action point.
I will fill them out tonight or tomorrow. I can't sit here and think
Okay,
about it.
And
But I will-
but there's a date on it, it needs to be back by a certain time, correct?
He didn't give me a date, but it
Oh,
needs to
okay.
be back.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get it back to you. Anything else on the director's report?
Hang on a second.
And how is it going with the space planning consultant?
I am having another meeting in 2 weeks. She, Janella and Molly met with the department heads and got some feedback from them about their departments and workflow, and I'm gonna get a draft of something called a fit study. So far, based on some calculations and the conversation she had with the department heads, they've calculated that we could use an additional 5,000 square feet. So she's going to create a diagram. She has our floor plan, and she's going to fit things into the existing floor plan and show it to me. And that's a early draft, so.
Okay, good, very good. Progress.
Interesting.
I have a question about the Primex letter.
Mhm.
Sorry. I figure you're working with Paul and various, like your whatever that Turnstone or Turnkey or whatever it was, that company doing the garage. Do you need anything from us with respect to this?
I don't think so. I need to see the proposal.
Okay.
You know, because when we were having this meeting, we were standing outside of the library for an hour, kicking around. They were kicking around lots and lots of brainstorming. So until something is written down, it's just brainstorming. It's just ideas. So I don't have anything for you yet, no.
So it sounds like things are marching forward.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of related also, and not something more recent that I received. Tim Thompson sent around the CIPs for this next budget cycle, and those are due to him on the 28th of September. So I think once we have a proposal for the windows, once we have a better idea from the space planning study, you know, those documents can be updated for the CIP.
Very good. Anybody else have anything to bring up on the director's report? Okay. Other business, policies?
Are we gonna do the disc cleaning one?
Yeah, I was just looking for, I think that was the disc cleaning was the only one, wasn't it?
Yes, the disc cleaning is the only one, so we can have you look at that. There were no changes to it. Oh, just go back to the director's report, because the building and maintenance project sheet, that is included in it. That's not usually a separate document, that's usually in the director's report, so I put that on, it was a handout. So if you, just to go back to that for a minute, if you had any questions about that.
Have Garland look at roof drains?
Yep.
Garland is a roofing company?
Yes.
Yeah, and in that Primex letter, there was a suggestion that north door, that be raised.
That's gonna be in the,
step.
that's gonna be in the proposal. Yeah, we looked at the door.
Right,
Mhm.
so that's why it's on hold there about,
Mhm.
yeah, okay.
Anybody have any questions on the building committee? I mean, on the building list? Maintenance projects?
The fencing around the dumpster, is that gonna be possible to do with the, is
We-
there room
We've
for it?
ordered it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, when they cleared out the shrubbery, the overgrown, and reseeded, they regraded and reseeded that whole strip. You'll see it just beyond, as you drive out on the driveway, that it looks like a lot of hay.
Okay,
Looks really good.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
yeah.
But DPW moved the dumpster so that they could work with that, and the dumpster has to get moved back.
Oh, it does,
So Jared's dealing with that.
okay.
It can't stay where it is.
He is concerned that the dumpster truck might hit the roof of the shed, which there's not an overhang, but it's like a,
Right, and
Brush.
he's not lined up.
he's cautious, so, you know.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, just cleaning policy and form. Let this look pretty clear and succinct.
Mm-hmm.
I got a question for Yvette on this. Do we happen to know how frequently people come in to clean discs?
I think the last thing in the treasurer's report was like 11, I think the deposit we made was $11. It's getting good use.
Oh, okay.
It's also not a service that anyone else offers.
Because I'm just wondering if $2 makes sense, but if it's being used, then then it's fine.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just looking for a piece of paper.
It's a little thing,
Yeah.
they stick it in, it cleans it. And they-
We've always cleaned our discs that the library has in the collection. And when this went through, so I guess 2 years ago, I brought this to you as a service that we can offer to clean the public's disc as well. So that's
Mm-hmm.
the context.
So you're asking us to approve this one?
Yeah, there's no changes. You review the policies, you know, it's time to review it. No changes.
I move that we approve the present disc cleaning policy and form as
wondering.
it's written.
I'm just wondering if $2 makes sense, though, still.
Is
Like
it too
what?
much,
But-
too little, what are you questioning?
DVD prices are coming down so much. I mean, you could almost get a brand new DVD for $2. So that's why I'm just wondering, does $2 still make sense?
Was it 5 disc for $2 or $2 each one?
Each one is one.
I don't know.
If I'm the only one who thinks
I
that
only
way,
get 'em
that's
at book
fine.
sales.
Yeah,
How much they even cost?
Because like when you go into Walmart, they have those big bins with DVDs
Are those
that are like
current movies?
$5 a piece. Yeah, well, they're older ones. The newer ones are like 12 to 20 bucks.
I see.
You know, the older stuff that's been out for a year, you could get in the bins for $5 a piece. I'm just wondering if the $2 makes sense still.
So you're suggesting it be lowered?
I'm suggesting, I'm putting out the suggestion for discussion. Yeah. So
What do others think?
I mean,
don't
$11
know
isn't a
how it
huge
is.
amount of money, but it's something.
yeah.
And people are happy that the service is available.
Right.
Do you have
People
any
used
thoughts
it.
about it, Yvette? One way or the other?
I mean, it's staff time. There's
Oh.
materials in terms of cleaning fluid. I don't know if that is an astronomical cost, but, you know,
Is anybody complaining about it?
I haven't heard any complaints, no.
Why don't we just
Leave
leave
it
it as
for
is
now.
unless
Yeah.
there's an issue that comes up with it?
I would think the people who are likely to want it to be cleaned are people who want to hold on to the ones that they currently
Yeah.
have and preserve them.
Chances are, if you're getting something cleaned, it's probably some either, a rare disc that you can't find,
Or that you're
Something.
being frugal and you don't even want to buy even new ones.
Right.
So
Yeah.
my mom would bring them in to have them cleaned because
Yeah.
that's her
Okay.
New England's, I'll take care of what I have so I don't have to go out and buy something else. Even if it doesn't cost me a lot of money.
So Karen has made a motion. Anybody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor of passing this policy? Right.
I just want to maybe, I'm not ready to bring you this policy yet, but just, we've been reviewing the rules and regulations. This is a policy that outlines patron code of conduct in the library.
Who?
Patrons, how patrons behave in the library. And there's some research that we are still doing in terms of rights of people who are homeless. We have seen an increase in the library of people who use the library who are homeless, and we want to make sure that we're respecting their rights. So it's still in process. I don't have all the answers yet for you, but we are working on it. I'll just show you some red clarifications that we're working on. You may see it next month, you may not. It's kind of depends. We have to be very careful that we're making sure we're abiding by any town ordinances that exist or any state laws. And a lot of, when I've been communicating with the other city libraries, Nashua, Manchester, Concord, Dover, we belong to a group, and I attend these meetings once a month with urban libraries. We're designated as an urban library by the state librarian in New Hampshire because of our population numbers. And what we've seen, and I've said this before, I'll just repeat it to give you some context again. We're on a corridor between Nashua and Manchester. The town is building, extended stay hotels. We know we've seen more drug use in Merrimack, in New Hampshire. So a lot of this is conduct, how our patrons should behave so that everyone can enjoy the library inside the building, on our grounds, in the parking lot. And as our community changes and as we understand how laws are updated, we need to adapt and we need to change the policies as well. So we're working on it.
Very good, thank you.
Okay.
Landscaping.
I know we're waiting to hear, Jared is scheduling a meeting with another one of the landscapers, and that hasn't happened yet, I don't think. So, don't have that yet.
Proposal from P&L Landscaping regarding the landscaping along the driveway, the parking lot, that area. Been decided to get another
Another quote.
quote, yes.
Okay.
So, the granite sign. Where do we sit with
I don't have anything on the sign.
The only reason we held it up last time was we tabled it, was we were debating on where it was gonna be positioned. And past that, it sounds like there's been a better location decided in terms of essentially right underneath the window facing Babusick Lake Road. That was what had held it up.
I'm wondering if this should be tabled until we have our space study completed.
Sure.
Have we voted on, we voted
We
on,
didn't vote on it.
we never
We
voted
tabled
on
The
it
it.
because
electric
we
sign
weren't-
you're thinking of.
Oh, the electric sign, that's
We
right,
tabled it because we
I
weren't-
mixed them up.
There was a discussion on terms of where it was gonna be. And so we tabled it. And then we skipped a month and now we're back here.
Well, I'm wondering if, until we get the space study and we get a better picture of our bigger picture and the landscaping and everything, if we shouldn't just wait until we have all of that put together as well. What thoughts?
urgency on the sign.
No, there's no urgency on it, so we'll just table that.
Just keep it on the agenda until we.
Yeah, what is the status of the electric sign?
It's been ordered, and I got an email back from Denny, where it's been ordered and we're on track, and when he knows, I know, so.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was looking at the side of the building, and the pictures we were looking at that made the electronic one look so much smaller, part of the reason is that the picture was dark, and the frame around the sign
Maybe that was
is
it.
dark. Because if you look at the side of the building, it
Looks okay,
doesn't
though.
look
It
too
doesn't,
small.
But in the photograph, it
Yeah,
really
but in the
looked too small.
photograph it did, yes. But it doesn't.
No, yeah, it was the black that
Yeah, it was the black.
that did it.
Yeah, we had a long discussion about whether it appeared smaller even though it's not.
I'll look it over to you to see if you want to suggest having like a sign lighting when we get it or something.
I don't know, I guess I'm just like celebrations, I guess.
Maybe a sign celebration.
Programs on how the library works.
That's for
the
you.
next topic.
That's your topic.
Not my topic.
So, it's your topic, but I'll take it for you. We had talked about,
Yeah, yes, we had
There you
talked
go.
about that, yes.
so,
I
have
was
you,
organizing
have
it.
you heard from anyone about what topics you
I
want?
have not. I sent out an email to everyone and nobody responded to me.
You did?
When did
I
you send
did.
out an email?
I sent out an email just after we met.
I
It
thought that
hasn't
the
been
email
well.
said, are we interested in that? I won't quote that, but I didn't know that it was
It said
giving
I asked for other
specific.
topics.
Oh.
Oh,
Perhaps I did not phrase my email
Yeah,
very
I
well.
don't remember seeing
I'm
a
having,
specific question.
I'm being looked at like
Well,
I have 10 heads.
Are there any, so one topic that got discussed was databases.
Yes.
Learning about our databases, statistics. If
Yeah.
it were a class, it would be just how our databases work or what our databases are. If it were something that just for the trustees, it would be that and what our statistics are.
Mm-hmm.
That was a suggestion. I
Oh,
would
you want
like
me to
to know.
recap the meeting? I'm sorry, I misunderstood what you're after here.
It's other business.
I'm sorry.
So I'm trying not to have it
All
drop
right,
off.
I'm not too sharp
Weeding.
tonight.
Do we know how the whole process of weeding is? Would we like to know how the process of weeding?
Right.
Do we know how things are cataloged?
Right,
Meeting with
we
the
were
department
talking,
heads,
did we want
to do
we had
that?
a meeting, and the issue came up is that we really didn't understand, as a group, how things did operate in the library, and that's where those different topics were coming from. The weeding, the databases, the whatever else, the circulation, that kind of thing, how statistics are kept, we talked a lot about that. So we talked about the idea of having some programs that were either focused at the trustees, and then the idea came up, well, we could make it a public program and include the trustees in that, which was fine. So really, we weren't going to organize it, but you wanted topics.
Right.
So we have a couple of topics on hand that we just gave you.
Should we type them out for Yvette?
I have that list.
However,
There's no additional topics.
yeah, so
Here.
clearly,
I don't know that I
I
saw
did
the
not-
list,
Personally,
so-
but this isn't, I don't think this is a class, but personally, I'd like to know how fines works. Fines work. There we go.
In what aspect?
Well, I say that because when I sat with you at the audit, you made a comment about how there's a procedure through ILS that,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, and in my
Okay.
head, I was like, wait, why can't fines just be like, I pay you 30 cents, you say, okay, and you just.
Because when your book is overdue, you're starting to accrue fines every day. So that, and I'm the circ staff, and I look at your record, and you now finally return the book, a bill comes up.
Right.
And that's the part that has to be cleared. So now I'm like, Janet, you owe $1, whatever, in your fines, and then the transaction happens across the desk, and I can go into your account, and there's a feature that I can hit pay fines, and then it'll total out 0. So that's we were talking with the auditor about how at this point we don't have a cash register. But we're trying to look for one that's appropriate, but right now we'd have to do 2 transactions. One in the catalog where your account is, that's going to accrue the fines until you return that item and it gets checked in again. And then, the total, the item gets checked in, but your balance goes up until it's paid, And then you do that transaction here, and then you'd have to do the transaction over here a second time with a register, a cash register. So there's a margin of error between having to do it twice.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was missing. I'm like, I'm not following something.
So if there are any other topics any of you are interested on how the library works, please do let us know.
So,
And I understood Joanne was going to be the one organizing. That was the impression.
we talked that around, as an example, our teen squads, which finished last week, the teen squad that I supervised over this summer was on the life of a book. So they had a very quick 6-week overview about talking about our policies for collection development, donations, challenge, reconsideration of materials when you say, I don't think this item should be in the library because of the content, and ALA statements on freedom to read. And then they looked at selection, now, okay, you have a base to make a decision, your policies, mission of the library, and then now how are you going to buy them? Well, I'm going to go to Voya, to choose teen materials, and there's a little description about each book, and there's a rating system. Voya is fantastic because it'll have a rating system of, is this, for which grade level, what's the, like how many stars does it have, high, low, interest. And then that selection gets, chosen, but then it moves over to tech services. Tech services actually places the order. That's where you see your invoices from Ingram and, I don't know, name it, places, lots of vendors that we buy from. And then the item arrives at the library in the mail. It gets opened up in tech. They process it, put it in the catalog. Now you can see it. It goes on the shelf. And then when you check it out, now it's moving to the circulation department to check out. It goes to your home. It comes back. It checks in. And then once it comes in, is it in good condition? It can go back on the shelf, or has it been damaged? And over a certain amount of time, there's going to be a certain amount of wear and tear to an item, but then sometimes it's totally damaged, and now we have to replace it. We have to withdraw it. What do we do with it if it's just, maybe it has older facts, Pluto is no longer a planet, so we're going to withdraw this book, replace it with something that says Pluto is whatever it is. And then this goes in the book sale. So it was the life of an item from here all the way to over here, and looking at policies about withdrawing materials and reconsidering materials and things like that. So our teens this summer, my squad learned about that, and that's kind of a little overview that, certainly you could all walk through, the same class syllabus, if you wanted to,
Very good. Yeah. That was a fun program to attend, seeing
the conference.
report.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yes.
coming. Yeah, so the teen conference that they're talking about, 2 of the trustees showed up at the teen conference on Friday, and Loretta Jackson from the Cabinet Press took some pictures and interviewed some people, and so we're looking for a photo or an article following up on it.
Very good.
So
Yeah.
Just to say, my son did it. It was on a Monday or a Friday. He made sure, like, he was going. Because on a Friday afternoon, from 2 to 4, he was like, I'm going. I'm like, okay. So this is his second year. He loved it.
Yeah, they
So
really all.
Besides, he gets to see different friends. He interacts. They have a resume session. They have to publicly speak at this conference. So very well done.
Resume section too?
Yeah, there's a resume session, so
Yeah.
he, and it was funny because a couple days later, my husband was doing something with his resume, and Daniel was like, they told us that, they told us that, and yeah, so he was proud of himself that he got the right information and it was right, and Dad was doing the same thing.
Oh,
So
that's great.
it was good.
Yeah, and when Emily goes to the New England Library Association conference in October, she's presenting on our teen squads.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
So programs. Yep.
So on the how the library works is, how are these programs gonna be set up? How are you,
Well, you need to tell us schedules. I think we need to look at schedules. You know,
well, I guess there was a comment, is this gonna be the public and the trustees, or just the trustees? I thought there was
yeah.
maybe a combination.
We can, you know, I think, sure, we can open up to the public. I think some of the information that are more board focused, you know,
So maybe it's
do
just
that
for the
before or
board.
after. Well, do it before or after, because I think what I had said at the meeting when we were brainstorming this was, you know, if Brendan is going to spend X amount of time creating a class for you, we might as well open it to the public and see if anyone wants to come. You know, if we have a quorum, then it needs to be posted, that it's probably a non-meeting, just so we know that you're all together and you're not going to be talking about business, because it's not your business meeting.
An in-service,
Okay, so
kind of,
what
sort
you
of.
would like, I'm going to assume these are gonna be about an hour sessions, or do you
Whatever.
think?
I think that if, like, the databases, if he's gonna go through what these databases do, or even it just highlights, I mean, there's like 20 or 15 to 20 databases. He's not gonna be able to cover that in an hour.
Would
Well, not
we need
every
him to?
program would require an hour, would it? I don't know.
That's a good question.
We've got September coming up, and it's gonna be a busy time.
I'll talk to the department heads. You know, because our teen sessions were 2 hours long, you know, and we were covering a lot of topics.
Okay.
I'll ask him what a database class might be. I mean, it's probably something like an hour and a half for a industry class. And that's probably the limit that someone can attend something, you know, at night. If we start at 7, 8:30, you know, I'll talk to them.
Okay, thank you.
But maybe if you want to send me preferred times, days to start with, at least we can work off of your schedules.
So, everybody,
Send it directly
We'll send
to you.
it to you.
Send it
Up
to you,
to
or,
her.
okay.
Why don't you send it directly to me?
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
that's probably a good idea.
CC to Laura. So would you like more than one? Or do you want like, okay, every Thursday at whatever
Yeah.
kind of time?
I mean, if Tuesday nights at 7 are good,
Yeah, well, that's what
you could just say it's an off, you know, it's not the third Tuesday, but it's the
The second
Tuesdays are
fourth
best.
Tuesday. I have programs on the first, but if you're not presenting with me, then I'm not doing these classes, so.
Typically
It doesn't-
Tuesdays are the best for me.
Tuesdays?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
What time
the
do you get
4th would
back?
be fine. 4th Tuesday.
I've been getting back around a little after 6, but today,
That'd be
because
hard for you
somebody
to-
had hit my car, I ended up having to fill out a police report, so I didn't get back
Gosh.
till right before this meeting.
So 7 would probably still be the
Yeah,
better time.
7
so you
works,
could- yeah.
gives me time to eat.
Okay, I'll talk to them.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we now we don't have to send you times.
Nope.
Okay.
Database
Whatever.
trial funding?
You did
request?
that.
We did that.
That's
Talk to
done.
Brendan.
Brendan.
Oh,
That was
okay.
Brendan.
And the quarterly statistics.
Okay, so I have an
Yes, I s-
updated one.
Oh,
Oh,
Well, I do,
Okay.
'cause I have
So this
questions
is the
about
same thing, but it has the youth services programs. They were omitted. Oh, it's been busy.
Yeah, look at all these things.
Yeah.
You've been very busy.
Okay.
I like this form, though.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
and then I know, Janice, you had emailed me a couple of questions.
Well, you answered one already.
I
I wanted to know if the two programs were together, and then the teen and children's programs, but Yvette just said there were
Okay.
No, they're
numbers.
they're separate.
They're separate, but
One of them was blank
one of them was blank.
because
So-
she hadn't
That was my
gotten them yet,
question.
but
And my other question was, in the circulation section under
Right.
the ILL and the GMILCs. That's just materials that come out of that system to us because we don't have them? Is that, do I
okay,
understand that
so
correctly?
if you look at ILL statistics, this is in that first block under circulation. So ILL, these are our items that are loaned out of the consortium. Statistics from emailed ILL requests, meaning the request did not go through NewPack. NewPack request statistics are at the bottom of the spreadsheet. So NewPack.
I was just looking for a definition of that particular statistic.
NewPack is the state library. It's the union catalog. This number represents, okay, so GMILCs is items sent on the van to and from Merrimack.
Under museum passes, is that the total number of museums used or the total number of,
That's circulations. The museum where are you looking?
under circ?
Yeah,
Does
that's,
that mean like you had four for Strawberry Bank, so you're counting four?
it just, of museum passes, of books as an item, of museum passes as an item, there were this
So
many
If a pass
circs.
gets in 4 people, it still only counts as 1 pass.
That's what I'm asking.
That's what she's asking.
Is it asking as one pass or is it
It's a
four?
checkout,
It's just
Check.
one.
So they're
Just
one
the
under
one.
checkout.
it's a
so-
It's the
checkout.
one,
Yeah.
yeah.
but it's not a detail. It's, I mean, it's kind of like, it's kind of like your questions about the database, where, we have a spreadsheet of the databases with usage on each database. I know we have statistics on each museum. It's just, this has been the format to have it on one sheet, as a read file. So,
Okay.
we can
And sound
drill down.
recordings? What does sound recordings mean? What kind of recording are you?
It's audio, sound.
Like an audiobook?
Yep.
Oh, it's an audiobook.
Looks like CDs just took off all of a sudden.
So it's an audiobook and music? So just any CD?
No, no music, huh?
Did our town just get all
Music
musical all
is
at once? Yeah.
separate.
Nice.
Where are you? Compact disc?
Yeah, look at that. It went from,
So sound recordings
to
is just
600.
audiobooks?
we got all musical.
Okay.
Everybody's getting their jams on.
Where was that?
The CDs, the
The
compact
CDs.
discs are the music.
We went from 187 for the month of April to June, we had 621 checkouts.
Wow.
So they just exploded.
Huh. That's interesting.
So
Everybody's listening
the
to music.
paperbacks, I noticed you started, it looks like you're
That's
sticking
finished.
in with the regular,
That's finished.
with the regular books.
Okay.
Maybe I'm just not reading this right, but like you said with GMILCs, that number is the items sent on the van to or from Merrimack.
Mhm.
Is there something in this that shows, I guess, how much is loaned out?
Yes, because we have, not in this sheet, but we keep those statistics.
Okay.
The one other question I have, I saw the blurb that the library has game systems now.
Mhm.
Where are they going to fall in on? Are
Well,
they
they're
gonna
not
fall under-
circulating yet.
But when they do, are they gonna fall under equipment or are
Uh,
they gonna have their own line?
I think we define them as a kit because they have multiple pieces. It's not an item. Like an item might have, a disc and the box. It's not a great example.
Kits
But
on
a kit has several items that are individual pieces to it, so it's a kit.
Where are kids on here?
Yeah, we don't have kits on here though.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at this earlier, there were some other things that we've talked about in department heads that aren't reflected in this. This has not
Right.
changed in
Okay.
a long time. And we're already, in department heads, we're talking about other kinds of things we wanna track. And, you know, so this will change. We'll add things to
We
it.
talked about,
you just don't see it as a separate line.
yeah,
There's, you know, in terms of statistics, there's a certain categories that we have to report to the state. So, you know, when the department heads are in a meeting with me and we're modifying what we want to record, and a lot of it is wanting to go into more detail, like you're saying, of how many books are leaving the library, how many books are coming into the library in terms of the van and the consortium. You know, are people browsing our shelves, not finding it, and therefore requesting it, and that's coming in, or are we sending things to another library? I mean, we want to be in a consortium, but how's the item moving, you know? Just as an example. So, you know, we've already made some notes about kinds of things that we want to track. And this document is gonna look different as we move forward, and it's also gonna look different because we'll be using Tableau, you know, and hopefully
and that'll include the databases and. how
yeah, because right now you just have one line for the databases, and we have a whole, I don't know how many numbers of databases we have, but we have a lot, you know. And then, yes, we can break down and do more detailed things about kits, which kits.
And
You know,
what's a
what are
hot
they?
book?
A hot book, it used to be called something else. I can't remember what it was called. It was something like Reads to Go. I want to say it was Reads to Go. Books to Go, thank you. Books to Go, and we were the only library in the consortium that had not changed the name to Hot Books. But these are items that are new. They have a 7-day circulation. They're popular. They're hot. You know, Hot Books is.
Right when you walk in.
They are right when you walk in.
Yeah.
They're shelved on top of they're on display on top of the bookcase that has new stuff.
So like a new release, basically.
Or next to the bookcase that has new stuff. It's by the audio.
It's a hot book.
So we'll be getting expanded databases next quarter. Expanded statistical information
Yeah.
next quarter.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good.
What's the name of that program?
Hot
No, the database.
Tableau.
Tableau.
Any questions on the statistics? Everybody happy? Anything else anyone would like to bring up at this time?
I have a couple of new things. I mentioned the CIP, so that's done. I meant to.
What are you adding there? What are you including in the CIP this?
I don't know yet, but I already mentioned that in terms of the proposal
Yeah.
for the wind.
Yeah.
Okay, so I meant to hand this out last month, but I wasn't here because I was.
Somebody must have given them to us.
It was in your packet because your
Oh,
packet was in
okay.
the drawer.
Oh, okay.
So this is the Merrimack magazine that the Chamber of Commerce puts out. We have an ad in it again this year that I wanted to make sure you saw, which is on page 25, our ad. And also, the library is featured in a sidebar on page 23.
I was excited.
So we're on page 23, and the ad is on page 25.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nice.
And whose picture's
like
on the
the,
front? Looks
That
like
is
Bite Me
Bite Me
yeah.
Cupcakes.
Yeah, the cupcake.
Oh, yeah. They have good stuff,
Hmm?
especially
Bite
if
Me
you need to be
Cupcakes.
gluten-free.
Yeah, they're so nice, those.
Very nice people.
It's a mother-daughter, those two.
Yeah, pink.
Yeah, right. Yeah, So nice.
Town audit, I said, Chamber of Commerce. Oh, so I was at a meeting for the Chamber of Commerce this afternoon, and there is an event coming up on September 28th. It's a Saturday, and it's going to be at the Anheuser-Busch campus. It is the Busch Lumberjack competition.
What does that mean?
So what it means is, on Saturday, for a better part of the day, lumberjacks and lumberjills, people who compete in lumberjack events, are going to be in Merrimack at the Anheuser-Busch campus competing in 12 events that are related to lumberjack skills.
Like sawing logs, using chainsaws, using axes.
Oh yeah. Throwing
Table
axes,
saws.
all that stuff.
Throwing axes.
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Wow,
Nelson tea.
interesting.
What? So, I'm on the committee because I'm on the board of the chamber and I'm on this committee. Something to think about. Today we talked about sponsorship levels. They just created a new level of $100 and the company can hang their banner on the fence. So there's a field where the events are going to take place, and if the library wants to pay $100, we can hang our.
We have a banner?
We have a banner.
Parade.
It's in the
Oh,
closet.
that's right, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
You know, it doesn't have the anniversary logo on it, and you know, it doesn't. The stand that we used to use to take it to events broke. But we still do have a banner. You know, it's a new event. We've never participated in that
It's
as a
$100 to
sponsor.
put up the banner then?
Yep.
Where does the money go?
It goes to the chamber.
Well, I think it'd be a good idea to put the banner up.
Okay.
Well, they're expecting a lot of people to attend this event. There will be food trucks, a lot of other side activities, and it's big. They're expecting it. We're expecting hundreds and hundreds of people to come to this.
When is it?
Wow.
What's
Very
the date of
unique.
this again?
September 28th.
September 28th. It's on a Saturday.
28th.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's a Facebook page now that's been created for the event, and the press is starting to get out. The competitors are,
Do you think it would be a good idea to hang our banner?
I'm thinking about it. You know, I mean, in terms of visibility for local people, sure. You know, I think any kind of visibility we can get, it's a totally different crowd.
I think it'd be a good idea.
Well, we have another meeting on the 18th, right?
Yeah, but
So
we want to vote on that now because you'd have to pay it ahead of time. You have to pay it by then.
do we have to pay it? Can we?
I mean, we have a
You'd have to-
publicity line
Is there funds in there for that?
for $100. Yeah.
Yeah,
For out of advertising.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, if it's out of
Out of advertising,
then
yes.
We have to vote
Yeah.
on it.
You
It's
know.
part of the budget.
I mean, the general ledger, I'd have to kind of peek. I didn't carry my budget with me today.
What do you,
If we take it out of if it comes out of the town budget, we don't have to vote on it.
I understand. I'm asking the others how they feel
No,
about it.
I would be
Any
in favor
comments
of that.
about it? I think it's a great idea.
Well, you
It's a
should-
great idea.
You should all attend.
I want to go.
That's why I wrote down the date. It
gonna
sounds
be-
interesting.
We'll
It's
try to do
really
that.
neat. It's I've seen some videos. Of people competing, and it's amazing how quickly people move to chop up wood. I mean,
Yeah.
it's and saw things. It's
Yeah,
incredible.
yeah,
It's incredible, but it's supposed to be a lot of fun.
yeah.
I
you know.
a guy who lives further up north that competes and stuff like that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, people
Wonder
come
if
from
they'll be there.
all over the world. All over the world.
Is this an international event?
It's an international event.
Oh.
You know, but it's really nice for the organizers to have secured Anheuser-Busch,
Wow.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Busch is the sponsor. You know, the Chamber of Commerce is one of the
Pythons
sponsors
on
as well, but
Yeah.
it's
Well,
really,
particularly since we're on the chamber, it'd be nice to support them by advertising as well.
it would be nice.
Yeah, I
would
think it's
be
a great
nice.
idea.
Yeah.
Thanks
Okay.
for letting us know about it.
Well, I was at this meeting and I thought I should just mention it because it was neat.
It is neat.
It was really
Sound
neat.
like fun?
Okay.
Any other new business? Anything else anyone needs to say?
Well done. We got through a lot.
I asked Rick, and I'm just curious. No, it's
I
not
didn't do it.
It's fine. It's about the calendar, or it's not about the calendar, it's the fall book sale
Yes.
in September.
Oh, yeah.
Are the Friends taking it over? Is this gonna
I
start the
think
Friends?
I think they might shadow. That's something we're going to talk about on Monday at their meeting.
Okay, yeah,
But it's
'cause
probably going to be
if-
shadowing.
Do we have to, because we would have to vote to officially hand it all off to them, right? Wouldn't
No.
we?
Why?
I'm wondering, I'm
don't think
thinking
so.
out loud. That's what she and I were wondering.
I don't think so.
I remember typing in the minutes at one point that we had like, for the year, there was a book sale where we shared the profits, and then there was a book sale where it all went to the Friends.
But if
and-
they take it over,
It's there.
they control all
Yeah,
the
if they
funds
take
from it.
over the entire thing,
They
then,
could say where the money goes.
and then, but I guess that would change it.
Yeah, it's up to them. It's not up to us. Yeah.
Well, the book sale is
It's their event, really.
right now it's your event.
Right.
Right now it's your event. It probably would be prudent to vote on it. I don't think you're ready to do that yet
Mm.
because they're not ready to take it on 100%. But I think because it's tied to money, then you'd have to have some record of, we are not receiving these funds in special anymore because, it's still supporting the library. It's just a different revenue stream for the library. Maybe that's the prudent way to do it, so.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. So, see what the outcome of that meeting is. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? This is like the third time I've said it.
No. I have nothing.
Okay. Then I move that we adjourn. Oh, no, we need comments from the press, public, or board members? Any more
Yeah, read
comments?
off-
Calendar?
You didn't go through the calendar
Oh, the
yet.
calendar, I'm sorry.
She's all set to adjourn.
All right, the next LBOT meeting is September 18th, 7 o'clock, right here. Merrimack Park, the Development Fund, the date has not been set. The Friends meeting is the 27th at 7 o'clock at the library. The book sale is September 8th and 9th. The Friends pre-sale is the evening of September 7th. Anything anybody want to add to the calendar? Okay,
September 28th, the lumberjack thing.
okay. Comments from the press, public, and board members?
No.
Okay. I move that we adjourn our meeting.
Oh, we have non-public.
Oh, okay, I move that we adjourn our meeting to go into non-public. Okay,
We have
let's
to
do it.
motion, do a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, what?
You have to do it for non-public, you have to do a roll call vote.
Yes, we will do a roll call
I'll
vote.
second the motion to go into non-public for RSA 91A3, I,
Okay,
A's.
can we do a roll call?
Yep.
Janet?
Yep. Oh, Janice, yes.
Yes, Janet.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Open to listening to ideas from folks for how you do that. It's not as simple as just saying, hey, applicant, leave $1 million in the bank for us to chew on for a little while, and we'll decide what to do with it if everything works out well.
I think it was either Alistair or Nelson that suggested phases
Yep.
in that. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if you can revisit that at another time, but
Phase approval is something that Tim talked to us about when we were talking about phases. Applicants for lots of projects include phases. Flatley is one of them, for example. The Outlet Mall is another one, for example, that had phases in it. A lot of the residential developments have phases in them. It isn't the kind of thing where you do a phase and then the planning board gets to look at some things and decide whether you're allowed to do phase 2. That's not the way phasing works.
Okay.
Phasing describes, what you're gonna do in your first step, and then what you're gonna do in your second step, and what you're gonna do in your third step in terms of the order that you're gonna do things. But from day one, the applicant has full authority to do what they've been
I
approved to do.
understand.
Now, we could